ZS is one of the most interesting yet varied game modes in Item Asylum. One match you'll win with almost everyone alive, and in other matches your team will get wiped in the first 90 seconds. Although this game mode has a lot of variables to it, there are a few things you can do to vastly increase your chances of survival. First, let's start with some general tips that'll help you on any map. Firstly, always be near a lot of survivors, or the most powerful ones. Strength in numbers is great and keeps you from getting overwhelmed, but if you see someone with a real knife, Smile, or Lily Net with only a few other survivors, I'd recommend to go to the smaller group with better weapons, because by staying with the guy with a real knife or Lily Net, it helps them reach their weapon's full strength, which can massively help you in later rounds. Conversely, as a zombie, if you see someone early game with Lily Net or real knife, you'll obviously want to target them first, but if you see them later game with these items, go kill all the other survivors first before trying to tackle the strongest guy, because all you're going to do is just feed him, which wastes time and gives the weaker survivors an easier time surviving. Another thing you should know is that although zombies are fast, their maul hitbox is extremely small. Pretty much every melee weapon is longer than it, besides like Switchblade. So you can 100% win against a zombie in a melee duel, just make sure you use your weapon's hitbox to your advantage. And always try to get the first hit on them, because although their hitbox is small, it always applies stun, which can really throw you off, especially against groups of them. To avoid this disadvantage as a zombie, if an enemy is backing away from you, try to go behind them and hit in the direction you're backing up. This will also account for any ping differences that you may have. Next, some of the most valuable weapons in ZS are ones that lock zombies in place for a while, like Freeze Ray, Macro Wave, or Vampirism. These weapons work so well because you can protect low HP survivors with them, or make it easier for killstreak weapons to feed off of them. And the next thing you should know is how to counter each zombie when you see one, because they have vastly different skill sets, and if you treat every one of them like a normal zombie, you're gonna get destroyed. For normals, it's just like fighting a normal person in FFA who's using air. Use any range you have to your advantage. For elementals, watch out for their eruption ability because it'll quite literally cook you. But besides that, they're just tanky or normals that deal fire. Shriekers are more serious than you think. They'll be indicated by their gray skin color and apply a stacking curse effect with each hit. These guys do pretty horrendous damage themselves, but if a normal zombie follows up on you and the Shrieker stacks 4 curse effects on you, you'll get torn apart like paper. So although on their own they pose little threat, try not to get hit by them, and if you do, don't immediately jump into another horde of zombies after. Fallen are obviously extremely dangerous, especially if they have a weapon like Dragon Slayer or Pose's Katana. Obviously just try to take down these guys with pure range, but if you can't, at least try to double team them with another survivor. Commies should be treated similar to Fallen. Try to kill these guys with solely ranged weapons. Keep in mind that the knockback these guys do is a lot more deadly than the actual damage they do. However, if you are with a group of them and you see one approaching quickly, take one for the team and kill it yourself before it blows everyone up. And once you see one of these on the field, make sure you aren't near any pits so you don't get thrown off when they explode. Tanks should be focused by anyone in your team with a high damage weapon. The rest of your team should be dealing with the rest of the zombies. The good thing about tanks is that they only have 17 speed, so if you have an item that gives any speed at all, you can just outrun them. Riders only have 1 strength, and that's their ability to block bullets. However, all melees and most projectiles will still go through. So if you have a gun, avoid them, but besides that they pose relatively little threat to you. Their M1 does a lot of knockback which can be deadly, but it's quite easy to dodge against most players. Screamers are extremely vulnerable when they use their ability, so if one does scream while they're close to you, it's a free kill. But most screamers I've faced know to just run away, so just try to either parry the scream, or catch them off guard and dive bomb them. Snatchers, or tongues, have been breaking keyboards and ending runs since their release, but the easiest way to counter these guys is to move unpredictably and kill them as quick as possible. However, the nerf really limited their capabilities, especially on elevation, as if the target hits a wall or can't be reeled in properly, the tongue breaks and frees you. With a hunter, countering it is pretty simple if you have a ranged projectile that does knockback. Simply predict when he's going to pounce, and throw the projectile slightly above his head and dodge diagonally backward. If he tries to pounce on you and hits a projectile, he'll be stunned before he can make it, and if he doesn't hit the projectile, if you dodge correctly, he'll just miss you. Then, if he's close enough, follow up with the melee and kill him. Spitters are just annoying if anything. Take these guys out as quickly as possible, but don't focus them over something like a Screamer or Hunter. Ghosts are also pretty terrible unless you have like less than 5 hours in this game or have your brightness turned all the way down. They're squishier normals that are kind of hard to see, and that's it. Just always be alert, especially if you hear hit sounds with no zombies nearby. In ZS, a major part of surviving is knowing where to go on each map. As a survivor, you should ideally establish 2 spots on every map. First is a main spot, where all the survivors can ideally congregate for as long as they can with the best chances of survival, and an emergency spot, when there's only you or a few other survivors left, and you have to make a final stand and survive as long as you can. The difference is main spots usually leave you more open to normal zombies, but special zombies like nukes and tongues have less of an advantage. Emergency spots usually give you an easier time against normal zombies with higher and open void, but if you get tongued or blown up, you're probably dead. And one more thing you should understand is that tongues are actually quite weak at very long ranges. This is because they'll have to tongue you from far away, which now actually stops the ability and frees you. I'll also be explaining the best place to put area denial items like Silly Gas and Bucket of Studs, because these items can hold off entire hordes or lower them enough to make them one shot by the time they reach you. First is Restaurant. The main spot here is literally the spawn point. There's lots of open space for ranged items to shine, and it gives you a lot of time to react to any zombies that come your way. Commies won't do much besides scatter the team a little, and tongue zombies usually have to get on ground level to hit you, excluding this spawn point, which is very easy to attack if you get on top of these trees. Your backup spot is the billboard. You can knock any normal zombies off by camping the ladders, but tongues, nukes, and tanks will easily throw you off. One thing you can do against tongues is to rapidly jump and dodge along both sides of the billboard. This spot is really bad as a main spot though, because as I stated earlier, tanks, nukes, and tongues can easily scatter your entire team. There are also a few spots where screamers can pretty much always hit you, but your best bet is to either thug it out and just deal with the huge stun time, or hope and pray that they scream in a spot where you can dodge it. The best spot to place area denial items is on the bottom ladder of this billboard, or at any of these holes in the walls. In City, there's really only one spot where you should be, and it's this area on the second floor. This area here offers 3 open but very easily defendable choke points: the bridge, the spawn in this corner, and the staircase. The rest of this area is mostly open, so you can kill zombies before they reach you. The other area over here offers this one pocket where all the survivors initially spawn, and although this spot isn't bad, it's not as spacious and easy to defend as the other one. The best place to put area denial is on either end of this bridge or next to the staircase. Just keep in mind this does force you to go into your own weapon if you need to leave your spot. Cabin is inherently zombie-sided. I mean, I've only won on this map like once, but your group's main spot should be the cabin's roof or the sewers if you guys have Silly Gas, Bucket of Studs, or a ton of grenades. While on the roof, any survivors that have a gun or fast-moving projectile have to deal with the tongues and screamers in the hedges, and anyone with a strong melee has to hold down the ladders. But besides that, this spot is a breeze to defend. If you start on the roof, your backup spot is the cabin itself and the roof. Here, you can easily abuse hitboxes through walls all throughout the cabin, and you're pretty much invulnerable to tongues. But screamers, nukes, and elementals can all kill you, so if you get overwhelmed, you'll have to go back up to the roof. Especially with knockback items, the roof is really powerful as a backup spot because you can bait out the zombies by pretending to jump off, or by staying near the edges and knocking off anyone that comes near you. As stated earlier, the best place to put area denial is at the sewers or at the bottom ladder outside this cabin. For Blood Pond, there's no defined spots here because the map is relatively similar throughout. Just stay at a nice distance between the pond and the edge of the map, so that way if you get nuked you won't fall into either of them. And also try to stay on or behind the hills if you're low HP. This also means there aren't any good places to put area denial. There's really only one spot on an abandoned facility that actually benefits survivors, and it's this area with the door leading to the helipad. Because if you have an AoE item, you can place it near the door, close it, and then just focus on knocking any zombies that come from this bridge off. If you don't have an AoE item, if you place a few players with melee weapons near the door spamming it, this also works. Just be careful, because the zombies can also hit them through the wall. Most of the traffic will come through this door though, so you'll also need some extra firepower along with Silly Gas or Bucket of Studs to properly defend this area. In Zombie Station, there's also only like one area that's good for survivors, and it's the area that adjacent to this staircase. Because there's only 2 choke points to worry about, and one of them you can just throw 30 projectiles at, and it'll probably work as a proper defense. It also has these broken pillars that provide some nice elevation to evade zombies. The best place to put area denial though is on this staircase or in this hallway here. Hospital really has no spots that benefit a lot of survivors. The roof you'll either get overwhelmed from every angle, or get nuked off the map, and most of the rooms you'll just get jumped in because they're so small. The safest spot to be is in this hallway, because you have a decent amount of room and won't get fit into the void. 2 solid backup spots are either in one of the rooms, or if you can get on top of the tower, it's also really annoying for zombies to get up to. But in the same way, it's also relatively hard to get up yourself, so either practice getting up this tower quickly, or just try to lock down one of the rooms as your last stand. There's not really a good place to put area denial weapons on this map. In Haunted House, just like Restaurant, the spawn point is probably the easiest to defend as a group. As a backup spot though, you should go to this room upstairs. It gives you only 2 choke points to defend, and the more prominent of them has a long hallway that you can spam projectiles into, and the other one, the broken window, isn't really much of a choke point because most zombies will just miss the ladder and instead go into the house. Because of this, the window also doubles as an escape plan if you get overwhelmed. The best place to put area denial is either at this staircase to the right of spawn, or at the entrance of the house. In Towny, your main spot will probably end up being the store's parking lot, which is relatively good due to its flat ground. The best thing about this map though is its really good backup spots. The 2 I use the most are the school and this green building. The school can be reached by using a ton of different melees, or by having 24 speed. It has a large surface area, and zombies can only get up to the ladders and this tree, which makes it a lot easier to defend compared to the green building. Its high elevation also makes it next to impossible to be tongued from other places on this map. Although the elevation from the green building helps a little bit, tongues can still reach you, and the building itself has a really small area to fight on. But it's a nice substitute if you can't reach the school. You don't really have to use these as backup spots either. You can very easily just get a few friends and defend on these 2 spots for the whole round too. The only spots where area denial makes a difference is on either side of the school, or at this tree if you're camping on this building. On Tundra, your main spot should be on and around this main outpost here. Just make sure to always be moving to avoid getting hit by tongues or screamers. The problem with this map is there aren't really any good backup spots, so if you're one of the last few, I suggest to either stay on one of the outposts, or just circle around the outskirts of the map. The best spot for area denial is under the outposts. If you've a bucket of studs, instead of placing it directly under, just place it at the main ladder. On Survival the Killer, there is zero reason to intentionally place yourself at the bottom level. Always stay upstairs. As our main spot, you should try to group everyone in this cabin here. It's the only spot where nukes have a really hard time throwing you off the map, and only provides 2 choke points that you have to cover. As our backup spot, you can either opt for the ends of the tree branches, which I see a lot, or on the roof of the treehouse. The best place to put area denial is on or near the huge staircase. On Neighborville, your main spot should be on this roof. There's a lot of open area, and the zombies only come from ladders or this very easy to defend staircase, making it overall a really solid spot. The only real threats up here are screamers and tongues, so just make sure to focus any that you see. Good backup spots are these wooden outposts if you can't reach them, but if not, you can go for this area here. The best place to put area denial is at the entrance of the staircase or at the bottom of these outposts. On Oakwoods, your best bet is to mainly just stay at spawn because the way this map is built makes tongues a serious threat no matter what spot you go to. But when it reaches 4 to 5 players left, you'll have to move somewhere else. So a few backup spots I use are on the top of this billboard, along the motel's balcony, and I've also seen this corner over here work too. The billboard's best perk is that the zombies literally struggle finding you because the survivor indicator is so high up. So only use this one if you have like less than 45 seconds left. The other 2 spots work better as backups if you need to survive for more than a minute though. And there aren't any good spots for area denial on this map. And that's all I have for ZS. Although this guide will be applicable to most of your rounds, ZS is one of those game modes where anything and everything will happen, so be prepared for whatever comes your way. The next guide is on Juggernaut, so stay tuned for that. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.